Although not invented by Marvel, post-credits scenes became a staple of the Marvel Cinematic Universe because they interconnected the different stories in it, but MCU Phase 4 is increasingly making the post-credits scenes problem worse. Besides Avengers: Endgame, which didn't include post-credits scenes as the movie symbolized the end of an era, all MCU movies have at least one post-credits scene, with various including two. While many MCU post-credits scenes offered comic relief, their main objective from the beginning of MCU Phase 1 was to set up a connection between the single movie and the characters it introduced in the overarching narrative of the MCU phases. MCU's first post-credits scene in 2008's Iron Man iconically introduced the Avengers Initiative by having Nick Fury, Samuel L. Jackson, confront Tony Stark, Robert Downey Jr., about revealing he was Iron Man. Although the first Avengers movie only happened 4 years later, MCU Phase 1's post-credits scenes systematically introduced either the next Avenger to get their stand-alone movie or 2012's Avengers. Marvel's Phase 2 continued the tradition of deeply interconnecting the MCU movies, with Thanos reappearing throughout it in various post-credits scenes after his first post-credits appearance in 2012's Avengers, making him an increasingly important player gathering his forces and tools, as he did in 2014's Avengers: Age of Ultron's post-credits scene, where he got the gauntlet before his debut in 2018 as Avengers: Infinity War's big villain. MCU Phase 3 continued the tradition as well. Its post-credits scenes tended to introduce new characters to old ones in light of Avengers: Endgame, 2016's Doctor Strange, or continued stories from previous post-credits scenes, 2018's Black Panther. However, Phase 3 also started having post-credits scenes that introduced stories not yet come to fruit, like Doctor Strange's second post-credits scene or the Spider-Man: Homecoming one did. Marvel's Phase 4 only made the issue of post-credits scenes introducing characters and stories that won't have a place in the wider universe for quite some time worse, with the Eternals taking the top spot as both post-credits scenes either introduced a character that will be seen in Phase 5, Mahershala Ali's Blade, or one who isn't entirely clear when he'll show up again, Harry Styles' Star Fox. Marvel's after-credits scenes are increasingly a problem. While Marvel's TV shows were influenced by what happened in the films in the past, Phase 4 is the first to have more TV shows than movies as an integral part of the story, as they helped set up the multiversal and cosmic arcs that will continue in the following phases. This heavily influenced how post-credits scenes worked, as films such as 2021's Black Widow went to inform what would have happened in TV shows down the road, December 2021's Hawkeye. Although this increased the possibility of interconnectedness in all MCU products, and it could also be seen the other way around, as Loki Season 1's ending basically set up 2022's Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, it also exacerbated Phase 3's issue of introducing story arcs that still haven't paid off, as Phase 4 continued doing. MCU Phase 4 post-credits scenes overshadowing the movies they appeared in was another prominent issue. Harry Styles' introduction as Star Fox in Eternals' first after-credits scene became such a big deal that it almost eclipsed the Eternals' origin story. In addition, it also isn't precisely sure where Star Fox will appear next, as he would definitely be central to Eternals 2's story, but that isn't officially scheduled for now in either Phase 5 or 6. He could also potentially appear in the Marvels, but that's speculation and much less certain than what post-credits scenes teased about in MCU Phases 1 and 2. Similarly, Black Widow's after-credits scene was a clever tie-in as it connected Contessa Valentina Allegra de la Fontaine, Julia Louis-Dreyfus, to both Natasha's sister Yelena, Florence Pugh, and Falcon and the Winter Soldier's John Walker, Wyatt Russell, but it also overshadowed Black Widow's central story, as many were left thinking about what that meant and Yelena being in Hawkeye, rather than focusing on Black Widow's final appearance. Marvel's Hulk reveal makes the MCU's end credits problem even worse. She-Hulk introduced another layer of issues to MCU post-credits scene, as to let Jen Walters, Tatiana Maslany, be infected by her cousin Bruce Banner, Mark Ruffalo. Bruce had to appear in his human form rather than his smart Hulk one. This caused Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings to have one of its after-credits scenes where Banner appeared as his human self to analyze the ring's possible origin, but the reason why he was human again as compared to his endgame version of Smart Hulk wasn't available till 1 year later in She-Hulk, where he finally explained to Jen that he found a way to be human so that his arm could heal better in that form. As it was explained by She-Hulk producer Jessica Gao, the awkward Shang-Chi after-credits scene was there only to be able to justify Smart Hulk's transformation back to Bruce Banner, making the post-credits scene more confusing rather than a clever tease as they were in the past MCU phases 1 and 2. While it's unlikely, and even entirely undesirable, as they did prove valuable and alluring in the past, that Marvel will stop using post-credit scenes, it can only be hoped that they'll go back to point to a somewhat precise narrative arc in the future. Marvel's Phase 4 has, until now, only been able to deliver an almost equal amount of hype-inducing and somewhat confusing post-credit scenes. Hopefully, as the Marvel Cinematic Universe regains its footing following the end of the Avengers era thanks to the new interesting characters introduced in Phase 4, it will have a clearer view of what to hint at of Phases 5 and 6 in the future Marvel post-credit scenes. Key release dates: Black Panther, Wakanda Forever release date, 2022 11/11 Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania release date, 2023 02/17 Guardians of the Galaxy Vol. 3 release date, 2023 05/05 The Marvels Captain Marvel 2 release date, 2023 07/28 Captain America, New World Order release date, 2024 05/03 Marvel's Thunderbolts release date, 2024 07/26 Marvel's Fantastic Four release date, 2024 11/08 Avengers, The Kang Dynasty release date, 2025 05/02 Avengers, Secret Wars release date, 2025 11/07.